Dear son, dear daughter, I am here before you with an urgent message that your soul needs to hear. Don't ignore it, as time waits for no one. There are moments in life when waiting becomes a burden, and what you want most seems to slip through your fingers. But today, right now, I tell you, don't wait any longer. I saw your struggles, felt your doubts, and heard your prayers in the silent nights. I know there are moments when you believe that time has stopped, that doors have closed and that hope has vanished into thin air. However, I assure you that this is not the case. The path has not come to an end, much less you. I am here to remind you that every day is a new opportunity, a valuable gift of life that must be taken advantage of. My dear children, today I make a very special invitation. Demonstrate the love you feel for God through such a simple gesture, but one that reflects your faith and gratitude. If you believe in the transformative power of the words that God has for your life, click like on this video and show that your faith and love for God reigns in your heart. It is at this very moment that you need to make a change, make a decision, turn your heart around. Don't keep waiting for circumstances to change on their own. It's time to act, to renew your faith, to get up from the ground and walk towards the light that I have always prepared for you. My promises are within your reach. Just open your heart and trust. Remember what it says. Today is the day of salvation. 2 Corinthians 6:2. Are you going to wait another day? Will you continue to postpone your peace, your healing, your restoration? I call him now. Open your eyes, my son, my daughter. There is abundant life waiting for you if you just take a step towards me. This is the time to change your destiny, to transform your life. I offer you my love without measure, my infinite mercy. Take my hand. Don't wait any longer, because every minute lost is one less minute enjoying my presence, my peace. You are not alone. You never have been. You never will be. Therefore, my son, my daughter, I call you this instant. Don't make excuses. Don't wait for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment is now. Act in faith. Trust me, and you will see that the impossible becomes possible under my power. This is your chance to start over. Hear my words with your heart, not just your ears. I have spoken in many ways, but today, urgently, I ask you to take the first step towards what awaits you, a future filled with light, hope, and blessings. Don't hesitate. Don't delay any longer. The time is now. My love surrounds you. Don't let it pass. I know your pain. I know the invisible barriers that often prevent you from seeing the light that I place in your path. Don't think that I don't see the anguish that torments your heart during the silent dawns, or the tears that you hide behind a tired smile. I understand the tiredness that builds up when attempts fail, when hopes seem to fade and inner strength runs out. But still, I tell you, I am still here, watching every movement, feeling every sigh of discouragement, and extending my hand to help you cross this valley of uncertainty. Pain is often accompanied by a feeling of isolation, as if everyone around you cannot understand the depths of what you face. There are times when you think that no one truly cares, and this makes you lose confidence in your journey. However, pay attention. I know you better than you can understand yourself. Every hidden thought, every painful memory, every regret, and every insecurity are visible to me. There are no distances between what you feel and what I perceive. Before you even utter a word, I already know what your heart wants to scream into the void, and there is no void that I cannot fill. You need to remember that pain is not your essence. It is like a passing storm that obscures the vision, but does not change the fact that the sun continues to exist beyond the clouds. Suffering is not a sentence that condemns you to failure. It is rather a reminder that you can learn, grow, and mature. Don't allow difficulties to define your identity. I call you to look up, beyond the narrow confines of your fears, to see a horizon where my presence awaits you with open arms. I did not create you to live in shadows, but to walk in a constant light that guides, comforts, and heals. I know facing obstacles is exhausting. You may be carrying the weight of old scars, painful memories, and voices that told you you weren't capable. Maybe you're feeling weak because you can't immediately overcome a challenge, because you can't find your way out of a maze of worries. But I assure you that none of these wounds are permanent when you give them to me. Let me take care of your fears. Let my words penetrate your wounds and treat them with the balm of my love. The solution is not always simple, but the first step is to allow me to guide your steps. Remember what I left on record. so that you may have courage in the midst of difficult times. It is written, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for peace and not for evil, to give you the end you desire." Jeremiah 29:11. This is the care I have for you, proof that I did not create you to be swallowed by the pain of the world, but to experience the joy of achieving goals, strengthening your faith and realizing that with every fall there is a hand that lifts you up again. My desire is not to see you prostrate, but on your feet, moving forward with confidence, knowing that your value does not diminish with losses, but grows with the lessons learned. You look for solutions, and I show you a path to peace. Seek serenity in my voice, in the silence of sincere prayer that springs from a tired heart, but still willing to listen to me. It is not necessary to understand all the details of what will come next. Trust that I am preparing each step of your path. Just like a seed that germinates in the dark of the earth before sprouting on the surface, many of your responses are being cared for in secret until the ideal moment for them to blossom. If you open your heart to my help, you will realize that the answer is not always what you expected, but it is what you really need. I offer you rest for your troubled mind. Don't carry the weight of your misfortunes alone. Surrender your fears, your doubts, and your tiredness. If you feel insecure, remember that the strength you seek does not come from human resources, but from my presence that manifests itself in the details, in the glow of dawn, in the comfort of a timely word, in the relief that comes when you unburden yourself to me, in a moment of inner honesty. I help you see what you might not be able to do on your own. And it is in this partnership, in this dialogue between your faith and my support, that the solution is designed for the pains that you consider insurmountable. I want you to know that none of this is by chance. Every part of your path, every detour, every stumble, can be transformed into something that brings you closer to my truth. Allow yourself to trust. And if at this moment your heart hesitates, if your lips tremble when pronouncing words of faith, challenge insecurity. Say something simple yet powerful. Say a single affirmation that strengthens your spirit and puts your focus on my sovereignty over your life. Open your mouth and declare, "God reigns in me." Just that. Let this affirmation echo within your being. By affirming it, you recognize that you are not alone, that you do not walk aimlessly, that there is a greater care guiding your steps. I see the future that you cannot see. I know how difficult it is to stand firm when the solution seems to take time, but please don't allow yourself to be consumed by hopelessness. Stay true to the promise I made to you. Healing may be just a step away, blessing may soon knock on your door, and the answers you have been searching for may come from where you least expect them. Trust me, and don't be scared by what you can't control. My love for you remains constant, and my peace is within your reach. Remember, the time to act is now. To renew your faith is now. To believe in restoration is now. Go forward, surrounded by my support, strengthened by my voice. I know that often you look around and don't find immediate answers to the pain you carry. Still, I invite you not to dwell in the darkness of the present moment. There is something beyond what your eyes can see, beyond the voices that whisper defeat in the silence of the early morning. You are not the result of chance. You are not a mere traveler lost in an endless desert. There is a constant care surrounding your life, even though the storm is still raging and the scars don't seem to heal. The difficulties you face today were not placed before you to crush you, but rather to reveal the strength within you as you walk under my guidance. It may seem contradictory, but it is in adversity that you discover the depth of your own faith, the resilience that overcomes your human limitations. I don't deny that the pain is real, that the tiredness can be overwhelming, and that hope, sometimes, is such a thin thread that you can barely hold on. However, I want you to know, it was not pain that designed your destiny, but my grace and my measureless love. When you feel like there is no way out, remember that I do not abandon you. When you think that everything is lost, believe that my power knows no boundaries. Even though circumstances seem unbearable, I am the one who has transformed chaos into order since the beginning of time. I am present in every new breath you take, in every uncertain step you decide to take towards an unknown future. It is on this path marked by doubts that I wish to breathe upon you the certainty of my presence. If your heart is heavy with painful memories, if the words you heard in the past still echo like blows in your mind, know that I understand the depth of those wounds. I recognize your humanity. I don't blame you for feeling afraid. I'm not surprised when your strength falters. It is precisely because I know your fragility that I extend my hand to lift you from the ashes, to wipe your tears and encourage your soul to dream again. Believe, the weight of your burdens becomes lighter when shared with me. Many wonder why the world doesn't offer easy answers, why life insists on presenting obstacles that seem insurmountable. But remember, I never promised that the path would be simple. On the contrary, I made it clear that there would be afflictions, that the road of human existence would be marked by trials. It is written, "In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good courage, I have overcome the world." John 16:33. These words echo my victory over everything that seeks to frighten you. They declare that despite the difficulties, I have already overcome the barriers that intimidate you today. You may ask yourself, how can I overcome my fears if I don't see a way out? I tell you that the way out is not in the strength of your own arms, but in my faithfulness. When the storm rages, close the eyes of doubt and open the eyes of faith. Even if you don't see the sun, know that it remains beyond the dense clouds. This is my presence. Even when you don't feel warmth or softness, I am still here, working in the invisible, preparing opportunities, comforting your anguish and giving meaning to your journey. If the pains seem endless, start by surrendering each one to me. Tell me about your losses, your deepest fears, your anxieties that seem to have no solution. I don't get tired of hearing your voice. I don't get bored with your reports of suffering. I don't judge you for your weakness. On the contrary, it is in sincere dialogue that you find relief from what seemed unbearable. Approach without reservation, trust without fear. There is no wound so deep that my love cannot heal, no barrier so high that my strength cannot tear down. I offer you solutions that go beyond human understanding. Sometimes the solution doesn't come in the form you expect. It may not be an immediate miracle, a sudden change in the scenario that distresses you so much. Often the answer comes as an inner whisper, a peace that replaces distress, a silent certainty that you are not walking alone. It can manifest itself through people who cross your path, bringing a word of encouragement, a gesture of compassion, a soft light in a previously dark environment. Understand that the process of healing and overcoming often happens step by step. Don't blame yourself for the slow progress. Don't despair if the results don't appear as quickly as you want. The solutions I prepare involve your inner growth, your learning, and your strengthened faith. Every small victory, every challenge overcome, helps you to know more about me and at the same time to know more about yourself. In the end, you will realize that what previously seemed impossible has turned into a testimony of perseverance and overcoming. Even if the world challenges you, even if circumstances insist on taking away your spirit, I want to remind you that I have already triumphed over every obstacle. By nurturing faith, you make uncertainty lose strength, insecurity lose space, discouragement does not find a permanent home in your heart. And now, at this very moment, I suggest that you strengthen your trust in my word. With a single gesture, a single affirmation, you can declare that you believe in my care and my promise of healing, restoration, and peace. Do it now, without hesitation. Write, "Amen," if you believe in God's healing or promise. This simple act is not a formality, but a symbol that you allow my full action in your life. Recognize my sovereignty and find in me the solution that the world could not give you. By declaring this, you welcome the certainty that, even in the midst of struggles, there is a divine presence transforming fear into courage, pain into learning, and hopelessness into conviction. Always remember, I know you beyond appearances. I know your potential and how far you have come. Don't doubt that I am present in every beat of your heart, in every sigh you take when you wake up in the morning and face another day. Faith is not just a word. It is the invisible fuel that propels your steps when the road seems barren. With me, you can rest in the midst of chaos, find rest in the midst of adversity, react to suffering not with despair, but with the certainty that the last word does not belong to the circumstances, but to me. Every time suffering knocks on your door, remember what I revealed. I have overcome the world. As you internalize this truth, you will understand that nothing is permanent other than my love. The pain passes, the problems dissolve, the wounds close. You can rest assured that I am working in your favor, designing a better future than your eyes can conceive. Keep going on the journey. Don't stop now. I am here, following every step, listening to every request, responding to every tear. Your place is at my side, where pain finds its antidote, difficulties find solutions, and faith finds rest. I understand the weight you carry inside your chest when everything seems to be falling apart around you. I know that there are days when the inner darkness overshadows any glimmer of hope, and the tension that was once just a thin thread now seems like a thick cable, impossible to break. You may even think that you have gone too far, that your options have run out, that time is slipping through your hands. However, I want you to understand, there is still a hidden path beneath the densest layer of your pain. This path is not easy, nor immediate, but it is there, waiting for your gaze to turn towards it. There are moments when discomfort arises from what you don't understand, situations that happen without explanation, and that shatter the tranquility of the moment. When you don't find meaning in what happened, anguish insists on occupying all spaces of thought. However, seeing beyond the boundaries of the obvious requires an inner patience that you often don't believe you possess. At this point, recognizing your own fragility is a fundamental step. It is not weakness to admit that the road before you is full of winding sections. On the contrary, this honesty with oneself opens up space to see solutions that previously went unnoticed. With each difficulty faced, there is possible learning, even when no one can point out where it is hiding. The key may not be an immediate achievement, but an understanding that adversity shapes your sensitivity. By facing obstacles, you develop new angles of vision. Old certainties can fall apart, giving way to a deeper understanding of your journey. This doesn't mean celebrating suffering, but noting that there is a slow, gradual refinement happening when you persevere, even without guarantees. I believe part of the relief lies in recognizing that discomfort does not have to be carried alone. As you breathe, there are other voices in your path, other presences capable of sharing burdens. It could be a kind gesture from someone who crosses your day, an encouraging word that arrives unexpectedly, or even the welcoming silence of a patient listener. Recognizing the value of human connections is a step towards dissolving some of the pain that seems insurmountable. Isolating yourself is not always the answer. Opening yourself up to the possibility of receiving support can lead to relief. The rush to solve everything at once can also blind your eyes. Believe me, finding solutions is not a race of speed, but of endurance. Many wounds require time to heal. Many knots require calm to be undone. When you allow yourself to go more lightly, even within the turbulence, it is possible to discern between imaginary urgencies and the real needs of the moment. By separating what really matters from what merely distracts, you create space for new ideas to emerge, bringing creative ways to deal with hitherto insoluble problems. It is likely that you have already felt mental exhaustion when faced with repeating the same challenges. It seems that every effort ends in frustration, every attempt returns to the starting point. In this sense, it is important to consider that, sometimes, the solution is not in trying the same thing again, but in changing the approach. Seek new perspectives, explore alternatives not considered before, analyze ignored details more carefully. By allowing yourself this flexibility, you may be surprised to find answers where you never imagined. Furthermore, there is something to be said for the value of inner serenity, even when external circumstances remain troubled. Serenity is not the absence of problems, but the ability not to be overwhelmed by them. By taking a deep breath before reacting to each of life's provocations, you open up space for wisdom. This space is essential because it is where subtle solutions can emerge. Serenity does not solve everything on its own, but it illuminates understanding, allowing you to observe conflicts with a more balanced view. Also know that your pains do not define the entirety of who you are. Although they seem to occupy every inch of your existence, there is much more to you than open wounds. There are memories of past overcoming. There are hidden skills that have not yet been put to the test. There are internal resources that you are unaware of. When you take this into account, you begin to understand that your difficulties are part of a growth process, and not an eternal sentence. This recognition helps you catch your breath when the air seems thin. By delving deeper into the roots of your fears, you may discover that some of them are nothing more than illusions created by insecurity. It is true that there are real dangers in the world, challenges that require caution and commitment, but it's also true that many of the barriers you see are magnified through the lens of uncertainty. When insecurity dominates, It distorts the size of threats, convincing you that there is no possible way out. However, as you question these impressions, you can begin to debunk these fantasies and see the picture more clearly. It's understandable to feel hopeless. You are human. You know your own limitations well. Still, don't underestimate your ability to adapt. Life moves in cycles and cycles inevitably change. There will be times when the high tide of troubles recedes, allowing you to walk on firm sand again. This retreat, however, does not only depend on the passage of time, but also on the way you view the process. By investing energy in becoming more resilient, you increase the chances of sooner or later finding a patch of calm between the waves. Don't be fooled into thinking that finding solutions is always a grandiose act. Sometimes it's the sum of small steps that makes the difference. A change in attitude, an adjustment in the way you talk to yourself, the courage to say no to what exhausts you. Each of these gestures may seem insignificant in isolation, but by bringing them together you build a solid foundation on which to build your future serenity. This construction is slow and requires persistence, but each carefully placed brick reinforces the structure of your confidence. It's important to understand that there is no shame in acknowledging that you need help or time to recover. This recognition does not diminish your strength. On the contrary, it proves your wisdom in not ignoring what hurts you. Denying suffering rarely makes it go away. Honesty about one's feelings, although painful, is a first step in transforming anguish into understanding, understanding into acceptance, and acceptance into concrete action for change. If nothing else seems to work, consider looking inside yourself with kindness. In addition to the pain, there are traces of courage that you didn't value enough, memories of overcoming that were hidden under layers of tiredness. By rescuing these moments, you can regain confidence in your own ability to deal with adversity. This does not mean ignoring what still hurts, but understanding that this discomfort does not cancel out what has already been achieved. As you move toward a deeper understanding of what torments you, remember that the path may have twists and turns. You don't need to have all the answers now. Just know that there are answers to be discovered. At some point, understanding and solution will align, allowing you to breathe easier. And when that happens, you will see that despite everything, it is possible to move forward, remembering not only the wounds, but also the wisdom extracted from them. Son, I observe every nuance of your journey, and I recognize how difficulties can seem like labyrinths with no way out. There is no shame in feeling exhausted in the face of successive obstacles. It is a natural reflex of those who try to move forward even when conditions seem adverse. However, the simple fact that you are here, thinking about how to overcome this web of uncertainties, already indicates that within you, there is an impulse that has not surrendered. I see this discreet flame, almost hidden under the dense blanket of problems. It may seem small, but it is real, and the heat that emanates from it can warm entire days of despondency. Pain often distorts perceptions, painting the horizon with darker colors than they really are. I understand that. I know that sometimes you question the point of continuing, when there is no guarantee that you will find the peace you desire. Still, I want you to consider the possibility that not every result is immediate. There are internal processes occurring without you realizing it, building a more solid emotional foundation capable of sustaining you when the next storm arrives. Do not think that your efforts are in vain. On the contrary, it feeds invisible roots that will one day support you with greater strength than you have now. Every pain that confronts your life reveals parts of yourself that you may not have known about. When faced with suffering, you learn to identify what really matters, filtering out the superfluous to focus on the essential. This discernment does not come out of nowhere. It arises from the confrontation with discomfort, from the patient analysis of what persists and what disappears. Watch this silent transformation happen within you. From it, previously unthinkable solutions can emerge, not as spectacular flashes of lightning, but as subtle flashes of understanding. You often pressure yourself too much, imagining that you should be able to solve everything with the snap of a finger. But life does not follow its deadlines. It unfolds in complex and unexpected layers. Understand that there is a natural rhythm for the maturing of the soul. Just as a tree does not bear fruit before its time, you do not need to demand immediate conclusions. It is in this interval, between the onset of pain and the perception of a way out, that patience finds room to grow. And patience, although it may seem little, is a delicate medicine that eases tension and allows you to see new routes. You may not realize it, but being aware of the possibility of change is half the battle. Persisting even when the horizon doesn't reveal its curves requires courage. I recognize your effort. Looking for meaning while everything seems out of alignment is an act of inner bravery. It doesn't matter if no one applauds your small daily achievements. I know they exist. Every small choice to keep trying, every moment you control the impulse to give up, is a step towards a broader level of understanding. There are times when circumstances make too much noise, drowning out any attempt to listen to one's intuition. In this chaos, you may forget the importance of taking breaks. A mind saturated with worries cannot perceive the subtle solutions that hover around. By slowing down, even for a moment, you broaden your vision. This slowing down does not mean accepting defeat, but recognizing that rushing often prevents you from noticing valuable details. I, God, observe how silence can be an unexpected ally, helping you separate the essential from the superfluous. You may imagine that difficulties are punishments, but that's not how I see things. They are more like challenges that reveal the resilient strength within. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed, but to understand that by facing setbacks, it becomes possible to discover capabilities that were dormant. Over time, when you overcome an obstacle, you develop emotional skills that will help you with future challenges. It is a cycle of gradual strengthening, and even if the pain does not disappear immediately, it loses control over your future. In the midst of all this, it's easy to feel like you're alone, that no one understands the scale of what you're facing. However, I am aware of every tension that squeezes your chest. I do not observe from afar with indifference. I follow the uncertain step, the tired sigh, the desire to find meaning. This constant presence doesn't eliminate problems, but it can help you remember that you don't have to carry the burden without a foothold. When you open your mind to the existence of this invisible support, you will notice that the weight, even if it doesn't disappear, can become more bearable. Human complexity is marked by conflicting feelings, and I don't expect you to resolve them all at once. Recognizing your vulnerability does not make you inferior. On the contrary, it gives it depth. By accepting that certain pains cannot be completely avoided, you stop fighting the inevitable and start adapting. Adapting is not surrendering, but realigning expectations so that suffering does not define your value. Over time, this change in perspective may reveal paths that seemed non-existent. Son, I encourage the softness in the way you look at your own story. Why judge yourself so harshly? Why assume that difficulties are a sign of personal failure? If you look at the journey so far, you will notice that there were discrete transformations, small decisions that changed the route, learning that was born from critical moments. None of this is negligible. On the contrary, they are pieces that make up the complex mosaic of your identity, and each new piece found can light the way forward, however slightly. Solutions do not always manifest themselves in the desired format. They can appear as unexpected insights during a simple moment of the day, a new perception when facing an old problem, or even a gradual change in the way of thinking. By making inner space for these possibilities, you expand the field where the solution can emerge. This expansion is not immediate, but arises from a continuous effort to keep the mind receptive and the heart willing to try, to trust, to renew discrete hopes. Pain, however uncomfortable it may be, is not an end in itself. It can act as a catalyst that awakens previously ignored needs. By accepting that something needs to be reevaluated, you create the opportunity to rebuild your relationship with the world and with yourself. In this process, changes are not usually explosive but incremental. Small adjustments in the way of dealing with emotions, understanding body signals, interpreting gestures of support from others. Each of these adjustments is like a step toward relief. I don't deliver ready-made manuals or readily packaged answers, because I know that the value of achievement also lies in the effort to discern one's own path. You, by getting involved with the challenge, ends up developing not only a way out but a broader understanding of your nature, your choices, and the cycles they all go through. Understanding this process, anguish loses part of your domain, for you recognize that you are not a prisoner of it, but someone capable of negotiating with the circumstances. In the course of this route, realize that no one is destined to live forever in conflict. Even if pain insists on arising, their experience when dealing with them becomes richer. Understanding that it is not necessary to understand everything right away, you free a little of the tension that choked it. This does not solve every problem in a finger crack, but reveals that the hurry to solve everything at once is not always the wiser strategy. In the end, the awareness will remain that it has advanced despite the uncertainties. It understood new aspects of itself and strengthened itself emotionally. You are not defined by the setbacks, but by the ability to rise after each of them. And in this ability to erect, there is something sacred. The confirmation that there is a presence supporting, encouraging, and waiting for its growth, even in the most arid hours. I follow this development, watching with attention every step, every hesitation, and each overcoming, knowing that in the midst of discomfort, you find yourself and move on. I see that your steps remain uncertain, and that despite all efforts, the feeling of insufficiency insists on disturbing it. It is not uncommon to believe that any movement can be in vain, that the cycle of discomfort will be renewed with each failure attempt. But while recognizing the complexity of your tensions, I wish you know that the value of your journey is not limited to the immediate results. There is something deep to be discovered in the way you deal with each obstacle, something that is not in a hurry, but in attention to the details invisible to the first look. Sometimes your mind builds additional barriers, interpreting your mistakes as indelible marks that condemn it. However, what you call flaws can be fragments of experiences that, together, form a unique knowledge. It is not a matter of collecting defeats, but understanding that each stumble offers a distinct perspective on oneself and the world around. By accepting this idea, you break free from the need to mask vulnerabilities and make room for recognizing the subtle force that grows when everything seems confused. This force is not shrill, it is not accompanied by fanfare, but it is real and pulsating, fueled by its ability to persist even without guarantees. You don't have to have all the answers ready. It is a mistake to suppose that the maturity of the spirit is conditioned to find immediate and definitive solutions. Things evolve by layers, step by step, often almost imperceptibly. Inner growth resembles craftwork. It requires patience, care, and willingness to review old standards. By admitting that you do not have all the keys, you also get rid of the weight of pretending omniscience. In this way, a fertile field is opened for new ideas to germinate without the suffocating pressure to need perfect. Observing your silent struggles, I notice that you tend to forget the value of rest. I am not just talking about physical rest, but the mental relief to know that not everything needs to be resolved at the same time. By allowing breaks, you create gaps where intuition can manifest. It is not a sign of laziness, but of emotional intelligence. Calm down offers clarity, and clarity helps to see previously hidden angles. Even in the middle of the whirlwind, there are moments of stillness that, if respected, open breaches for previously overshadowed perceptions. There are times when you want to deny what you feel, because you think that admitting suffering is a sign of weakness. However, ignoring the pain does not make it disappear. On the contrary, it accumulates in even more difficult corners to achieve. True courage is not pretending that nothing affects it, but in recognizing that wounds hurt and yet choose to treat them honestly. This treatment is not always fast. It may require a slow process of naming what it bothers, understanding its roots, and accepting that each step of overcoming has its own pace. No hurry can anticipate the end of a healing cycle. So, in the face of all that you felt now, look into your heart and find the courage to take a step of faith. Allow each insecurity to dissolve and give way to a new inner strength, an unshakable certainty that you are not alone. Take a deep breath, raise your thinking, and accept the call to a transformative journey alongside God. Subscribe to the channel and leave your like to continue receiving messages that touch your heart. Share this message and spread the light of God to more people.